Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're diving into something pretty intense. I think you're going to find this one super interesting. Um, we're talking AI ethics, global power, the whole shebang.
It's a big one.
It is a big one. It really is. And we're starting with this video called, Is Google Secretly Developing AI Weapons for Future Warfare?
Just the title alone, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
gets you thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely thought-provoking, especially because, Google's had this whole history of being very against AI for weapons.
They had that big public statement back in, what was it, like 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Where they even pulled out of that Pentagon project.
Project Maven.
Project Maven, yeah, because their employees were protesting.
Right. Huge protests, actually. A lot
Right.
of people were really upset about Google getting involved with the military.
And then fast forward to, what is it, February 2025?
Just this last month, yeah.
That pledge is gone.
Poof.
Yeah, it just got, like, they just quietly snuck it into an update to their AI principles.
Just like slipped it in there.
Yeah, like nobody would notice.
Yeah. Wow, sneaky, sneaky. But it's not even just that they're quietly stepping back now. They're saying that democracies need to lead the AI race.
That's the thing that really struck me. They're not just neutral anymore. They're actively advocating for
AI development for military purposes.
Yeah, especially for national security. They're really emphasizing that point.
So what do you think changed? I mean, do you think this is because of maybe some pressure from their competitors? I know Alphabet had those like slightly disappointing earnings recently.
That's definitely a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
when you've got rivals like OpenAI and even DeepSeek, that Chinese company breathing down your neck.
Right, and they're pulling in billions of dollars in funding.
Exactly. And Google's got, what, like $75 billion earmarked for AI development? That's a lot of pressure to perform.
Yeah, that's a huge investment. So it's interesting, right? Like they're making the shift with AI weapons, and it seems to be happening alongside a larger trend within Google. Like what happened to don't be evil?
Right. It went from this like core value to just a marketing slogan, and now it's completely vanished from Alphabet's code of ethics.
It's so bizarre, right?
Hey.
You'd think a company that prides itself on doing good would want to keep that front and center.
You would think, but I guess times change. Priorities shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not just like some abstract thing either. I've been reading about how Google employees are reacting to all this, and apparently there's a lot of internal debate, even some anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? You're working at this company that was supposed to be like the good guy, and now they're developing AI weapons.
It's got to cause some cognitive dissonance, right? Like I'm seeing all these memes about are we the baddies, and, even Sheldon from Big Bang Theory.
It's funny, but it also kind of highlights the seriousness of the situation. I mean, this is some heavy stuff we're talking about.
It is heavy stuff. So is everyone freaking out inside Google? Or are there people who are like, yeah, let's do this. This is for the good of the country?
I think it's a mix.
Yeah.
You've got some employees who see this as being patriotic, right? Ensuring national security, protecting the troops with the most advanced technology.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But then you have people like Meredith Whittaker, remember her? She was a leader in those 2018 protests. And she's still super against developing AI for warfare.
Yeah, I remember her. She was really vocal about it.
And she's not alone.
Yeah.
It seems like there's genuine internal conflict even within specific teams. Like, remember the Google DeepMind chief scientist?
Yeah.
He signed that letter opposing lethal autonomous weapons.
Right. So even within Google, there are people who are drawing a line. They're saying, no, we won't go this far.
Exactly. And it's not just within Google either. The whole AI community is divided. You've got people like Andrew Ng, he helped build Google Brain, and he's saying that we need to stay ahead of China in AI development, even if it means developing weapons.
Wow. So he's like full speed ahead.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But then you've got someone like Geoffrey Hinton. He's a Nobel laureate, and he's calling for a complete ban on AI weapons.
So you've got these two extremes, and it's hard to know what the right answer is.
It really is. It's like the experts can't even agree.
Yeah, it's both fascinating and scary at the same time.
Totally agree. And all this is happening while OpenAI is partnering up with the U.S. government.
Right. They're working with the national laboratories, the ones that do all the nuclear research.
Yeah, they're using OpenAI's models to secure nuclear weapons and materials.
Wait, hold on. So we're letting an AI that's known to hallucinate and have issues with data security near nuclear secrets. That doesn't sound very safe.
It does raise some concerns, right? Like, how much can we really trust these
It
systems?
feels like a recipe for disaster, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think about the risks. And it gets even more complicated when you consider the political connections. Like Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO, he was at Trump's inauguration this year.
No way, really?
Yeah, and he even donated to Trump's campaign, which is weird because he was pretty critical of Trump before.
That's a major change of heart. Do you think it has anything to do with OpenAI's investment in Trump's new AI venture Stargate?
Possibly. They're pouring billions into it. And they're also trying to secure another funding round that could value the company at $340 billion.
Wow, that's insane. So we've got Google stepping back from their anti-weapons pledge, OpenAI getting cozy with the government and nuclear research, and all this is happening while the global AI race is heating up with China as a major player.
It's a lot to unpack, right? It's like everything's changing so fast.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. But we got to try to make sense of it. So where do we even begin? I mean, how do we start to understand the implications of all this?
Well, I think it's clear that AI is becoming increasingly intertwined with national security and international power dynamics. Google's shift, while controversial, might just be a reflection of this changing landscape.
Right. They even said in their blog post that democracies need to lead in AI to make sure it aligns with human rights.
Exactly. But does that justify developing weapons? That's the question.
That's the million-dollar question. And let's not forget that Google's already been involved with defense contracts even before they changed their policy. Remember Project Nimbus?
Oh, yeah. The partnership with the Israeli government. That one sparked a lot of protests from employees.
Yeah, it seems like they've been grappling with these ethical dilemmas for a while now.
They have. And they're not alone. Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, they're all facing similar challenges.
Yeah.
It's like we're entering this whole new era where the lines between the tech world warfare and global power are constantly shifting.
And it feels like the stakes are higher than ever before.
Absolutely. The choices being made right now will have ripple effects for years to come. It's a pivotal moment, and it demands our attention.
So what do you think is this shift in Google's policy a sign of things to come? Are we headed towards an inevitable future where AI is deeply embedded in warfare?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I think it's one that deserves a much deeper look. We need to dive into some specific examples of how AI is already being used in military applications and really explore the potential consequences of this trend.
Okay, so we're not done yet. This is just the beginning.
Just the tip of the iceberg.
This is going to be a deep dive you won't want to miss.
Definitely buckle up. So we were talking about how AI is becoming like more and more connected to warfare and stuff. And I think it's important to get into like the specifics, how this is actually happening.
Yeah, totally. It's not just some abstract thing anymore. It's real AI is already being used, and it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. Like, for instance, you've got companies like Palantir working with Amazon to give all these AI capabilities to like the U.S. military and intelligence agencies.
So it's like actual AI systems that are like analyzing tons of data, finding patterns and stuff, maybe even making decisions on the battlefield.
Exactly. And that's where things get really tricky. Like you've got experts warning about these autonomous weapon systems where machines are making life or death decisions without any human intervention.
Yeah, that's scary. Like straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually happening. So do you think we're headed towards like an AI arms race? Like countries competing to build the most powerful autonomous weapons?
It's definitely a possibility and a pretty scary one. We're already seeing countries like China investing a ton of money into AI research, and the U.S. is definitely trying to keep up. It's a dangerous game for sure.
And it's not just countries competing with each other, right? Like we're also seeing these private companies like Google and OpenAI becoming major players in all this. It's like the line between government and industry is getting super blurry.
It's true. And that raises a whole bunch of questions about accountability. Like if some company develops an AI system that ends up being used in a war, who's responsible for what happens?
Right. Like, is it the company or is it the government? It's a tough one. And these are the kinds of questions we need to be asking ourselves as a society, I think. We can't just leave these decisions to a few tech guys and politicians.
Totally agree. We need to have a much bigger conversation about all this. Like, what are the ethics of AI and how do we make sure it's being used responsibly?
Yeah, for real. This whole conversation about AI and warfare kind of brings us back to Google's recent policy change, They got rid of that pledge against developing weapons, and now they're saying democracies need to lead the AI race to make sure it aligns with human rights. It's kind of a weird contradiction, isn't it?
It is a bit strange.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what their real goals are. Are they really all about ethical AI, or are they just trying to justify getting involved with the military?
Yeah, it's hard to know for sure, but their actions definitely speak louder than words. And don't forget, they've been involved in defense contracts even before this whole policy change. Remember Project Nimbus?
Oh, yeah, the one with the Israeli government?
Mm-hmm.
That caused a lot of controversy.
Yeah, it seems like they've been struggling with this stuff for a while now.
Definitely. And you know what? They're not the only ones. Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, they're all dealing with the same kinds of challenges.
It's like a whole new world, right? The lines are so blurred.
Yeah, it's a whole new era. And it's really important that we pay attention to what's happening. The choices we make now will have a huge impact on the future.
Okay, so back to OpenAI for a second. They're working with those national laboratories, right? The ones that do all the nuclear research.
Yep, they're using OpenAI's models to help secure nuclear weapons and materials.
But hold on, OpenAI has had all those issues with accuracy and data security in the past.
Yeah.
How can we trust them with something as dangerous as nuclear weapons?
That's a valid concern. I mean, giving such important tasks to AI systems that are still being developed is risky. And when you add in OpenAI's close ties to the government, it does raise some red flags.
Right, and speaking of those ties, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, seems to have completely changed his tune about Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, he did a total 180. He was at Trump's inauguration and even donated to his campaign, even though he was really critical of Trump before.
That's wild. Do you think it has something to do with their big investment in Trump's new AI venture, Stargate or whatever it's called?
Could be. I mean, they're putting billions of dollars into it. And they're also trying to raise even more money in another funding round. We're talking a potential valuation of $340 billion.
That's insane. So basically, we've got Google dropping their anti-weapons pledge, OpenAI getting cozy with the government and all this nuclear stuff, and then you've got China pushing hard in the AI race. It's a lot to process.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
like we're at a turning point.
Yeah.
Everything's changing so quickly. But it's important that we don't just sit back and watch. We need to understand what's happening and what it means for the future.
Absolutely. So how do we even start to make sense of all this? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think the first step is to really acknowledge that we're in uncharted territory. AI is changing the game in ways we never imagined. And that means we need to rethink everything, from national security to the role of government and even the nature of war itself.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the bigger picture.
Exactly. We need to start thinking about the long-term consequences, not just the immediate benefits.
Okay, so it's like a whole new way of looking at things. We can't just rely on the old ways of thinking.
Nope. Those days are gone. We need to be more proactive, more strategic, and most importantly, more aware of the risks.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this together. We need to have a global conversation about AI and its implications.
You got it. This is a global issue. It affects everyone. And we need to work together to figure out how to navigate this new landscape.
So what are some of the specific things we need to be thinking about? Where do we even start?
Well, I think one of the most pressing issues is the development of autonomous weapons, like we talked about earlier. Machines making life or death decisions without human oversight. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that's terrifying. And it feels like it's just around the corner.
It is. And that's why we need to act now. We need to establish international norms and regulations for AI development before it's too late.
So we're talking about like a global treaty or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We need to get everyone on the same page. And that's not going to be easy.
No, it definitely won't. But it sounds like it's absolutely necessary.
It is. The future of humanity could depend on it.
Wow, that was a lot. We went from Google's "Don't be evil" to like the future of warfare and global power. It's kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
It is. There's so much happening so fast with AI. It's hard to keep up with it all, and even harder to like fully grasp what it all means.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole idea of an AI arms race, I can't stop thinking about it. It's like we're back in the Cold War, but with AI instead of nukes.
It's a good comparison, I think.
Yeah.
There's that same sense of urgency and danger, like whoever controls AI will control the world.
Right, and it's not just about military power either. It's about everything. The economy, society, our everyday lives. It feels like we're at this tipping point where things could go in a lot of different directions.
We are. It's like a fork in the road, and
Yeah.
the decisions we make right now will determine which path we take.
So what do we do? I mean, this deep dive has made it clear that there are no easy answers.
There aren't. But that doesn't mean we should just give up or ignore the problem. We have to stay informed to keep asking these tough questions. We need to demand transparency and accountability from those in power.
Yeah, we can't just let a few tech companies and governments decide the future of AI.
Exactly. We all have a stake in this. The future of AI is the future of humanity. And we need to make sure it's a future we can all live with.
So to wrap things up, I think the big takeaway here is that AI is changing the world in profound ways. And we're only just beginning to understand the implications.
We are. And it's up to all of us to ensure that AI is used for good, not for harm. We need to be informed, engaged, and willing to speak up for what we believe in.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. I hope you found it as thought-provoking as I did. Thanks for joining us.